I don't want to be here as much as you don't want it to be here. Like, it's a sad and shitty thing
Yeah.
that I can't keep growing my organic fruit and vegetables and be like, everything's gonna be okay. Like, I'll be able to have a home, and like, when I'm old, I won't be renting a trailer somewhere and still working a 9 to 5. Like, when my legs all gimped up, I won't have to like limp to the gas station to pump gas to pay my bills.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Would you mind sharing what it was like for you to switch from being an organic farmer to being in the
It
industry?
was really sad. It was a really sad time in my life. Horrible. Like, I just turned into this asshole. I used to be so sensitive and like kind and like really empathetic to a lot of people, and now I'm just a jerk. Like, I had to grow this like hard exterior shell and be prepared to like bounce it off other people's exterior shells. You know, I couldn't be myself anymore. I had to turn into. I had to put the work hat on and just be like, I'm going to work. That's it. That's who I'm going to be for a while.
Wow. Thanks
Yeah,
for sharing that.
yeah. Hard to be yourself.
Yeah.
You know. So
Do you have a question?
I was just gonna ask, like, what's the culture, like, what's the work culture like?
well, it's male dominated. Like, it's the first time in my life I've been surrounded by more males than females, because I'm used to working in agriculture or just and generally like happy to be surrounded by women, so like I hang out with women. But here it's all guys, and it's like it's almost like a pack mentality, like where everybody's, if you're a laborer, you're trying to get into a straw boss seat, and if you're a straw boss, you're trying to get into a foreman seat. If you're a foreman, you want to be a spread boss. Like, everyone's trying to climb to this like alpha position of like money and power and like all the things that come with that. Like, it's like, oh, look at that guy's truck. Like, he must have a lot of money because he's got a really big truck that's worth a lot. And like, people, it's a very like egocentric, almost alpha type community where like people will step on each other to try and gain a bit of ground above the rest of the crew. People will stab each other in the back, like, oh, what, that load you're hauling is illegal, so like I'm gonna take pictures of it and send it to the DOTs and like try and get your trucker arrested and like try and get him fined or whatever. Like, it's kind of every man for himself, and everybody's trying to go for the top, the leadership. So
We were talking to in Edson. We were talking to some folks that work on in some of the plants nearby, and they were saying that the drug culture is like really intense.
oh, alcohol and drugs is everybody's recreation. Like, that is the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mind expanding activities for the general population. Like, there's not. People are like, oh, well, it's the weekend, like I'm gonna go on a meditation retreat, or like, oh, it's Tuesday night, so I go to my yoga class, or like, oh, I had this really nice talk with these people about, like, we read a book together and like we discussed the material in the book. Like, no, people go to the bar, they get drunk, they probably take drugs, and they all like fight each other because they get out of control or whatever. Like, Friday night, you go to any one of these small town bars and film that, you'll see people, pipe fitters fighting iron workers, welders, everybody acting cocky. The whole comb of the rooster is way up and they're button heads all night. Like, that's kind of the recreation. Like, my boss went to a football game tonight, and like he phoned me at like 8:30. He's like, I'm drunk at the football game, da 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 da, and started like cursing about this woman he was with and like saying like she's a bitch and like she's really drunker than me, and just stupid, like not really pushing anybody's intellect or consciousness forward at all. Like, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
The vibes aren't good. Like, it's pretty dark a
mm-hmm.
lot of times.
How do you sort of self-preserve?
Well, I don't know that I do that, actually.
Mm.
I guess the seed that's the seed of me that's in there is like, knows that it's gonna be all right. It's like, you'll always be you. Don't worry about it.
Mm.
But I definitely like don't feel like I'm growing
Mm.
my consciousness or as a human being by being there. I know that it's just for money. Like, I'm just here. I'm like a money making robot, Just like I just want some more money. That's it. Like don't think about things like because it'll just make your job harder. Don't consider the other possibilities. Like, but it still creeps in there. Like I was thinking about moving to New Zealand the other day. I was just like, oh, I have like enough money. I could just move to New Zealand and like get a working holiday visa and like start gardening over there or something. And then like I have enough money to float on, and then I could immigrate and just like go Lord of the Rings, you know, find a little cave out in the hills somewhere to live in, and like all sorts of ideas will pop in your head. For some people, they plot an escape plan, and then other people are just like, no, oil my whole life. I'm gonna work here. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's no chance of change.
So what's yours? What's your escape plan? Like, what's your end goal? Like, what do you want to?
I just want to go back to like growing my own food and like not having too much like plugged into the grid, you know. I'd like to have run biodiesel if I have to drive. That's definitely a goal, like get a diesel vehicle and like run it off biodiesel, so if I have to drive around I can be like, oh, I made this fuel at home, so I'm not really condoning all that behavior out there. Grow my own food because I love doing that, and like yeah, maybe get back into like making art, like playing some music, you know, just enjoying life, like kind of soul searching creatively, and like build a nice little house somewhere and look at the view and just be like, oh yeah, carrots are good, I grew these. Like nice, thank you goats, you shit in the yard a lot, now I have carrots. Like just more participating in more of a basic nature than like let's refine and extract and like burn and, you know, form it into other things. Like I really see myself as like more of a caveman. You know, going back in time is like moving forward. Right, I don't need like a new smartphone and like a better truck or like a more advanced technology. Like I'd like to actually go more primitive and be like, oh, I'm gonna make myself a shirt and like I have a spinning wheel and like I'll spin the fiber and like sew it together. I carved this bowl out of wood.
Do you think that message would appeal to your colleagues?
No, I get some flack. They like me though because I'm different. Like it's entertaining for the people I work with because they've been living. Most of the guys I work with just been living the oil life. Like grew up in Edmonton or grew up in a small place around here, and like that's just what they know and what they do. And for them, there is no escape. So they kind of see me. Sometimes I go for it.
Is there any point where you've had a feeling of sort of unsafety due to having sort of a different opinion, or almost kind of speaking out in some ways?
You know, I try to keep it to myself. Like you gotta have your work hat, and then your like real life kind of has to be separate. Like I couldn't actually see myself as being myself at work, or I'd probably be like beating people over the head with shovels and like slashing the tires and putting sugar in the gas tanks. I'd be like trying to sabotage the whole operation, you know. I'd really be doing some harsh shit. So I have to like, you know, kind of try and put on a work hat and just like do the job that's assigned to me for the money gain. So yeah, I guess in a way it does kind of feel unsafe. Like, you know, not that anybody's that mean or violent or anything. Like people have to abide by like the OH&S work standards. Like you have to be polite to people at work. You can't be a jerk. You can get run off a job for insulting somebody or calling them names or anything. Like there's lots of rules that keep everybody as individuals safe. But socially there's not a lot of room for like too far way out there thoughts. You know, it's better in the long run that you like kind of go with what's going on and, you know, try not to stand out too much, or else everybody's just going to make fun of you and they're not listening anyway. So like what's the point of that?
As we've been coming, you know, along this pathway, you know, we've mostly talked to a lot of folks that aren't that don't derive income from the industry directly.
Really?
Until we hit Edson, really, and that's when we started talking to everybody whose income was derived from the industry. But before then, it was really like, you know, people were very concerned because of, you know, pipeline ran near their backyard, or, you know, this or that, or, you know, because of more environmental stuff.
Right. It's good to be concerned about the environmental stuff, but like, I don't know if this nature has made this product and put it in the ground. I think it's pretty amazing stuff, actually. Like the fact that I burn it in my motorcycle and it's got lots of power, tons of energy trapped in this fluid that's just in the ground is like pretty amazing. Like, you know, I'm not gonna like declare human beings are evil or wrong for like taking advantage of that power source. It's definitely time to like start thinking about like cleaning up the atmosphere and like cleaning the water, and there's more and more people every year, so like we should use our intelligence to be like, hey, we figured out a way we can make energy without like dirtying everything at the same time. Yeah, like it's almost like kind of good on people for like progressing along the fossil fuel line, and then hopefully eventually one day coming to the conclusion that fossil fuels like should just stay there, and we got other sources of power we can use that are safer and cleaner, and they'll give us more longevity on this fragile planet.
How long do you think that'll take?
But not very long. I don't know. It wouldn't take much in my mind to like tip it over the point of no return. I think about it every time I fire up something with a motor, like, oh, well, I contributed today. I bought an orange from the grocery store from Florida. 11 pounds of carbon dioxide brought that orange to me. That's nice.
Do you feel like you're pretty educated on the climate aspect of all of this?
Well, yeah, it's pretty simple, I think. You know, it's not hard to see. Like, if you have a bunch of people in a car, the windows rolled up and no air conditioning, and everybody's breathing heavy on a hot day, like, it gets hotter in there, right? Like, it gets hot. If you sit in a little glass dome and, you know, just sit there and breathe quietly, it gets hotter in there. So it's not like the atmosphere is like leaking out into space or anything, is it?
No.
I don't think so.
Is there an alternative for people to transition out? I mean, it just seems like such a roller coaster with the government and with oil prices and kind of the whim of companies to just ditch people at any moment. Is there another way?
Yeah, it's the like mental awakening of the people. Maybe wake up and realize that you don't need to make that much money to survive. That you can feed yourselves. Even in a climate like Alberta, like Rainbow, she grew so much produce this year, it's unreal. You've seen her squash around your table, or spaghetti squash, or this big. Like, you can actually like save money by growing your own food with your family. Like, you could live a little bit differently and like, you know, survive on much less. But a lot of these people are just like, they got a truck that's like $100,000. They got a house that's way more than they can afford, and like they need that oil money to keep paying for that shit, right? So people live beyond their means, and they're kind of backed into a corner where they need a big money job. And like, yeah, people could transition for sure. Like, if they choose to make a lifestyle, if they can make a lifestyle that's a little bit different, yeah, it's easy to transition. Like, I could go back to being a vagabond guitar player on the streets and start hitchhiking across Canada again and like play songs in different cities, and like I was way happier then than I am now. Way happier as a busker, a hobo that lived next to dumpsters and like maybe went to soup kitchens. Then like, yeah, okay, I'm getting older, like I might need a retirement home somewhere. I'm getting scared in my old age and sort of fear my body, like not as good as it used to be, making me afraid of nature. And so yeah, like it'd be really easy for people to leave their work and just be free. Yeah, they could leave their work and kayak across the ocean if they want, but are they gonna do that? No. Like, they got too many bills, and they got kids, and they got nice shiny things that attract them.
I guess, and you might have already answered this in some way before, but if you could envision your life in like 20, 30 years, and kind of envision like the world that would be in, if you could choose what that would be, like the thing that would really kind of make your heart sing, what would that be? What would you be doing? Where would you live?
I would live close to my food and water supply, for sure. I'd be making my energy out of something that's right there in my yard too. Like, my lights in my house, my TV and computer would all be powered by something that was like right there. And I would feel good about that. I wouldn't be worried about like the what ifs of burning carbon and like pollution and nuclear power and all these different things that we do. I'd be at peace with how I lived every day, thinking like, I grew this carrot, like I'm hungry, So I grew a carrot. I ate it. Now I'm not hungry. Now I can like be here and like maybe like make some art or like work on my house a little bit. Like maybe I'll carve this cupboard today and like put a picture of a smiley face in it. Cause I'm so happy because like the trees outside my door are green and like, you know, there's nobody in a jet boat screaming past my house saying fuck yeah, like you know, there might be a few less douchebags in my community and like it might be more peaceful and healthier, I guess. You know, I wouldn't be buying like the odd lunch at the gas station because I worked so much that I didn't even have time to pack a lunch. I'd be like, oh, I didn't eat a gas station hot dog today. I actually had time to like chop this carrot with love and consideration every slice. I was like, oh yeah, the green of this carrot's really sweet. It's better than the other one. It's gonna taste so good because I spent 4 hours making this stir fry. Instead of like, I gotta pound a few hot dogs in the microwave and like get to work. Give me 2 cups of coffee and 6 Red Bulls. I could make it through another 14-hour day. Yeehaw. Let's go.